Update. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my stepkid's private school? Original post. Context. I, 30 female, have been with my partner, 36 male, for 4 years, and we have a 2-year-old child together. I have 4-year-old twins, full-time custody as their dad passed away, and he has 2 children, 7 and 12, who he has 50-50 custody of. I was brought up in a pretty wealthy family where me and my siblings attended private school, and this was something that I valued and wanted my future children of mine to attend also. My twins are now finishing their first year of school at the private school that I attended. I pay for their tuition, and my husband knew that they would be going as I made it very clear that that's what I valued. He also agreed that this is a good investment and would want our child to attend also, paying half each when the time comes. His children do not attend private school but attend highly ranked public schools. Since the twins started school, his ex has been causing issues and saying that it is unfair and showing favoritism that my children attend a better school than theirs. My husband agreed and they applied for the same school, but when the time came to accept the offer, BM changed her tune and could no longer afford to pay her half. Note that my husband pays alimony and child support totaling to almost 50% of his wage, and we pay for most of the other miscellaneous expenses. My husband asked if I would pay for her half, and I said no. Ever since this happened, he has been distant and accuses me of not loving his children enough and treating them differently. Yes, I could afford the other half, but I don't feel that it's my responsibility. I never asked my husband for any financial help towards the upbringing of my children. I wouldn't expect that of him. I felt confident in my decision to refuse, but his constant negativity, the comments from his ex, and judgment from his family for not paying are making me doubt myself. Am I in the wrong here? Not per se, I don't think. ETA. I have offered to pay some of the fees I offered for all of us to sit down and discuss finances and abilities to contribute. This was refused, and BM shut down and began refusing to pay any of the fees. The situation could have been avoided had discussions like these had been prior to the application. I was not involved in, only informed of, the application as they are not my children, so it was none of my business. But it is now all of my business when they want me to pay for the entire thing. I'm going to talk to a significant other and see if BM wants to just open up discussions and maybe something can be arranged for the next enrollment. Also, lots of comments assuming my contributions to the family or that I am treating his children poorly. I have made comments, but I'm just going to include it in the post to save repeating myself. I pay 80% of all finances. During our time with SKs, I am also the sole contributor to their college funds currently. I completely take on board comments about how the children might feel, and ultimately I think that this is the most important thing. Conversations with them have ended in them expressing not wanting to move away from friends, 12-year-old especially, or being neutral either way. This is absolutely something BM pushed for and led, and had she been open from the start, I am sure something could have been arranged. Now for the comments before reading the update. This person says his ex literally planned this. She had no intention of paying half ever. She wanted a freebie, and causing a rift in your relationship is a cherry on top. It definitely feels this way. And then this person says, then make this the issue, the hill that you're willing to die on. Seriously, no matter how much money you spend on his children and how expensive gifts, cars, and holidays you pay for and give them, they will never appreciate it. They have a mother. They don't need you, OP. From the type of toxic and problematic mother they have, I bet my ass she will make sure that you aren't invited to your stepchildren's weddings when the time comes. But she and your husband will damn sure need your money to pay for the wedding, honeymoon, and wedding gifts. That's the feeling I get from reading this. I couldn't agree more. Some people will say that I'm overreacting, but am I really? How did two adults convince themselves and each other that you are responsible for paying for their children's education? This is the worst kind of entitlement and arrogance that you will meet in your life, and it's only just began. Wait till the children wants to move out with their mom's house, wants a car, wants a fancy wedding, etc. Mommy and daddy will expect you to pay for it. You should take back your offer to pay for school fees. Stay out of it. Reading this post, I realized no matter how much you do financially for your stepchildren, it will never be enough. It will never be appreciated. You are dealing with ungrateful and super entitled adults. Whatever you give and do for your children, you must do the same for their children. It's a never-ending competition. Your husband should be ashamed of himself for putting this burden and responsibility on your shoulders. What a shameless, broke man. His ex is broke too. More info. Thank you for this comment. I feel like I'm being villainized for not wanting to pay for 4 children's education expenses when BM and SO both reached an agreement on paying for this without my input. I don't see how it has fallen completely on me now that they don't want to follow through. The comments talking about how poorly I apparently treat my SKs are crazy. My significant other has told me time and time again that my twins are not his, and he shouldn't be expected to love them the same as his children. His words, not mine. My twins live with him 24/7 and he barely even interacts with them. I'm not allowed any input in the lives of his children because I'm not their mother, but I'm good enough to cover their mother's responsibilities when it suits them. He set this precedent of his kids and my kids. In all honesty, the comments calling me an a-hole and accusing me of treating the children differently have actually opened my eyes to how my twins are being treated by their stepdad. Right now, I feel like I'm failing them by putting them in a situation where they don't receive any love from their SP. I don't even mean financially, I mean emotionally. I'd be more than willing for a significant other and I to cover the school between us if the CS and alimony is reduced somewhat. They both know this. I have offered this multiple times along with paying first and third of the cost of them choosing to use the money that I've saved for their college funds to go to the school. I think my offers have been more than fair, but I guess by reading some comments, I haven't. Going to discuss this further with SO in regards to him going to court for adjustments and getting couples counseling. I'm not okay with being taken advantage of or the way that any of the children are being treated here. Now for the update. First of all, thank you to everyone for all the advice, suggestions, and overall support. I wasn't sure that I would update on the situation as it seemed like something that would be an ongoing discussion. However, I guess this update post is the fact nothing to do with the issue of the private school. After reading comments and doing some reflection, I initiated a conversation with him to discuss everything. I once again suggested decreasing child support and alimony and paying together. But I also brought up how unfair it feels that he and his ex have teamed up against me in this situation, and I do not feel that we have been behaving as a partnership. I brought up my grievances regarding feeling used and unappreciated and how he treats my twins being unacceptable. I voiced my desire for us to have time apart and to get into therapy, saying that I needed some space to think as I was unhappy with the effect that this was having on the children. I won't rehash the entire argument, but after talking about how I feel his relationship with his ex was inappropriate and crossed some boundaries. I was made aware that he and his ex have slept together multiple times during our relationship. That doesn't surprise me a bit. I don't have much else to say. I feel completely numb. I've asked him to leave. The house is mine before I get comments, and I am talking to a divorce lawyer. For those who asked, I do have a prenup, and we have only been married for just over a year. He swears that it was a mistake and he regrets it, that he loves me and wants to be with me. According to him, it just happened. And I should be more understanding that they have a history together and he didn't mean anything to happen. Oh my gosh. I don't know that I will be replying to any comments or updating anymore as there is nothing left to say. Divorce is all I have to say to that. I need time and space to heal and to work on being the best mother that I can be. I am feeling probably every emotion possible right now. I feel like a complete failure. I have a lot to figure out, especially as we have a baby together. He hasn't asked to see his daughter or stepkids since leaving, despite me reaching out to ask if he wants to see our daughter. Once again, thank you all for the initial support that I've received. Story 2. Update. Am I the a-hole for forcing my fiancé into cutting off his late wife's family? Original post. I, 25 female, am getting married to my fiancé, 29 male, in May. When we first got together, he told me that he was married from 20 to 22 years of age to his high school sweetheart. We met when he was 25, but she passed of sepsis from a botched surgery. He didn't cope well and stayed in contact with her family, namely father and two sisters, 19 and 24. It was a soft spot for me for a while at the beginning because there was so much history that they had that we would not have, and it was tough knowing that she was all around him. I never told him and decided to work through it on my own, especially with the fact that he would often spend time with her family during our relationship. Her birthday, their anniversary, and anniversary of her death, he'd spend the day with her family. It was uncomfortable at first knowing the man that I loved was reminiscing about the love that he had with someone else, but I kept trying to see it from his perspective, and the last couple of years I am completely secure in our relationship, and it doesn't bother me much anymore. Well, he proposed this time last year, and I was over the moon. I love this man with all of my heart, but I recently learned that he never told them that we got engaged. I've been trying local coffee shops the past few months rather than my usual run, and tried a new one. His late wife's sister worked there, and other than being awkward, she did a double take of my engagement ring and looked really unhappy. I didn't mention it and left. My fiance told me that she kept messaging him on social media about it, and I wasn't happy that he kept it a secret. He apologized and was very depleted by it all. He said that he didn't want to hide me, but he didn't want to hurt them either, and that both of us were a huge part of his life. I understand that and let him off the hook slightly. Just told him to be upfront with them from now on, and that was that. At least I thought so. A week ago on Sunday, I got a message from the 24-year-old asking if I was happy with myself, that I would never replace his late wife, and that if she was still alive, he'd choose her over me every time. She even said that he only kept me around for my money and something to stick his dick in. I ignored it, but I can't say that it didn't affect me. When you're in my position, all these points are ones that you have to work through, and it's not easy to get over those insecurities. It feels like a knock in the teeth when they're used against you. I mentioned it to him, and he comforted me and reassured me. He said that he'd set boundaries with her, and I'd never have to hear from her again. Fine by me. That was until I found my car with whore and grave robber smeared in red paint. I had saved for this car for a year, and it was expensive, very expensive. The tires were slashed and the windows cracked. I asked the store a few doors down for their CCTV camera footage of that night, but it was blurry and didn't catch much. It did manage to catch half a license plate through the color and make of a car. It was the late wife's youngest sister's car. I told him I was filing a police report, and he asked me to hold off until he talked to them first. I told him no, but I would if they paid for the damages and apologized to my face. He set up the meeting for last night, and it didn't go well, to say the least. Everyone was shouting. The sisters told me that, yes, both of them had nothing to be sorry for, and that I should leave their family alone, including my fiance and their family. He told them that it wasn't fair for him to be lonely forever, and they'd hope that they'd be supportive of him finding love again. They told him he was betraying the late wife, and that he never loved her if he'd marry someone else. They didn't have a problem with him having a new girlfriend because he realized that she was the only one for him, and get tired of me. Now that didn't happen, they were putting their foot down. The youngest told him to tell me that they were right and that he'd never love anyone like the late wife. My fiance broke down at the table. I picked him up and made us leave. I told them that I'd be filing a report and suing for damages, and the next time they saw us would be in court. When we got back and calmed down, I gave him an ultimatum. Either he cuts contact or we call off the wedding and go our separate ways. I wasn't going to live my life with this harassment and someday subject my children to their bullying. He said that they would never bully a child, but I shot him down and said he didn't expect any of this either. He called their father, who was fairly chill about it all, but still defending his daughters. They say I shouldn't control him and that I'm horrible for cutting them off. I don't know what to do. I can't live like this, and I don't think I should have to just because we're getting married. Now for the updates. Mini update. Hey everyone, just a mini update to clear some things up before I have a discussion with my fiance, either later today or tomorrow, about my ultimatum. I didn't sleep at all yesterday or the night before, for obvious reasons. There's a ding on my phone at least once an hour from them saying one thing or another. Mainly the 19-year-old, and I don't know what they've told their parents, but I've got a message from one of their uncles and grandparents calling me horrible stuff too. So obviously they've been spreading what's happened this week and twisting it. I haven't blocked them because I want to gain as much evidence as I can for the inevitable case. Regardless of any outcome with my fiance, I will be suing and filing a criminal case for harassment and vandalism and looking for a restraining order. I just haven't had the mental fortitude to do so yet. I'm hoping my fiance will help me. I haven't spoken to my fiance since the argument at the table. Other than that, to tell him, they go or I do. It was my choice to give him a couple of days space to come to terms with everything, and I will contact him when I'm ready. All of this, from the first message till now, has been a week. It's a huge weight to contemplate, leaving people that you've known for 15 years and who you grew up with. He did set hard boundaries with the sister from the coffee shop, as I've seen in the messages. He said, paraphrasing, "You have no right talking to OP at all if this is how you're going to behave. She doesn't deserve this, and you've gone too far. Why are you being like this?" And she responded with more name-calling and back and forth. He ended up by saying not to message me again and to make sure everyone else does the same. I was happy with that. At this point, only one person in that family had an issue, to my knowledge, so it was silly to have him cut all of them off. It may not be enough for some, but it was enough for me to feel safe and comfortable. For those saying he needs therapy and counseling, he's already been getting it. He's been getting it since before we even started dating after an incident at work. I don't know about any of their family, though. The first time I had a conversation with any of them was that night. Some people are wondering what the late wife passed away of, and it was a botched weight loss surgery where she died of sepsis. People were wondering if he was somehow the reason behind the surgery, hence the family's insane reaction, but he was not in the slightest. He likes bigger women and wouldn't pressure something like that onto her, speaking from experience. I also want to clear up the not calling the police about the car thing. It was entirely my idea to not file charges in exchange for face-to-face apology and damage payment. He only wanted me to wait so that he could talk to her to see if she regretted it, and then have her father pay for the damages. At the time, we thought it was just the 19-year-old that smashed up my car, but both daughters. Neither of us wanted to ruin her life. When I found out it was both of them, it was full steam ahead. Thank you all for the messages, and hopefully I'll have a positive update for you tomorrow. Edit. I chose for him to take this space apart. It's not him being indecisive. I said to take time and that I'd reach out so that his decision is thought out. It's for me. I don't want to be chosen only to be 3 kids down the line and stuck in a resentment-filled marriage. It's for me. Please understand that. Update 1. I texted him saying that I thought it was time to discuss this, and he was back at home not a half an hour later. He's been staying with a friend the last couple of nights that we had no contact. We sat on our bed to talk because my back is sore from all the packing, and I wasn't going to force myself to sit at the table. Before we even got to talking, he asked if we could cuddle for a minute. It's definitely took some weight off, and we were able to talk like a couple and not awkward strangers because, regardless of what some people believe, we do love each other, and it took me a very long time to feel confident in that fact. Before anyone calls me a doormat again, no, I was still sure I would stick to my ultimatum. The first thing that I asked was if he felt that he had enough time to make his decision, and he said he didn't need time. He was very shocked and bewildered at how so much could change in just a week and how everything he knew was shook up that he couldn't think and went numb. He did apologize that he didn't take a more defensive stance at the cafe, and he doesn't want to make any excuses for it. An explanation was that he genuinely didn't expect such a vitriolic response. He hid the engagement because he knew they weren't over late wife's death and would be upset at the news. It was like I would feel upset by them not knowing, which I wasn't really. He's known these girls since they were in double digits, and he would never have thought of them capable of it. It came so far out of left field that he froze. I asked him if there was any possibility that either of them had a thing for him, and he looked very confused and disturbed. I said how I've had people tell me it's not an uncommon thing for siblings to do this after a loss, and he thought on it. Turns out you were right. He said the 24-year-old, about 8 months after the late wife's death, made a move and tried to kiss him. He immediately left and told her mother about it. Mother and father are divorced now, but they weren't then. She was a minor at the time and messaged him saying that she would be 18 soon, so it wasn't a big deal. Her mother made her see the school counselor and didn't allow her to be alone with him for a while. It was years ago, so he'd forgotten it even happened. He said he was sure that that wasn't the case now because it had been so long, but I'm not so convinced. Not that it matters anymore. He opened up his Facebook and gave it to me to read. The 24-year-old had been messaging him, which he ignored. She ranged from telling him off to crying and saying how betrayed the family was to trying to manipulate him against me. He said he was sure that he needed to put them behind him and had been thinking it on and off since he proposed, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. After this week, the fire was lit and he knew that he had to do it. It was all just abstract until suddenly it was very real. He asked me how I'd been coping, and I told him. I felt like I'd done everything right, but somehow things turned out worse than if I had been the jealous type and stopped their contact at the beginning. I tried to be understanding and put in so much effort to be secure myself and our relationship, only for everything I had worked on to be thrown in my face like I was a mistress that was cheating on him. He didn't blink the entire time and just listened. He said he should have been more observant and realized that I was struggling with this so that he could help me, but I've always been the strong one, so he had neglected to do so, and he'll do better. As I've said in a few comments now, his parents had him in their late 40s and are retired. He hates to involve them in negativity, but I was stunned when he said he's been talking to them about this since the first Facebook message. They were very understanding, but his father took a tough love approach. He said the best quote I think I've ever heard: "Get your act together before the jig is up." They offered to come stay for a while and help us move. I don't think that's necessary, but I really appreciated the thought. On the subject of moving, I made it clear that I would not be living in this house any longer than I had to, and he completely agreed. His parents offered to find us a place in their state if we wanted to move, more of a support network, and I'm honestly considering it after all this. They're only a state away from my own family, so we'd be a lot better off. His job is remote, and I should be able to find work there easily enough. I've been in contact with a friend who's a mechanic, and they've quoted me between $1,000 and $2,000 for the damages, but that's an at-cost estimate as a discount. A few people have said to get a real statement and to shop around. The real cost is between $4,000 and $5,000, and that's just for the noticeable damage. My friend thinks they've done something to the engine, so thank God I couldn't drive it anywhere. He thinks I may be entitled to a replacement car altogether. If so, I will be sure to sue for it, and that's not going to be cheap. After all the emotional things were discussed, he mentioned when would I be comfortable enough to go to the police. I made it clear that he was okay with that, or I'd go on my own. He said the surest I've ever seen him that this is what needed to be done, and he wasn't going to let them continue. He'd done enough to try and shield them, but he wasn't going to let it come at my expense. I'm currently in the bath, frothing in bath bombs, but we'll be going to the station as soon as I'm done. He's downstairs right now printing out the new quotes for the mechanics and the messages the 24-year-old sent him over the past couple of days so we can be prepared. People have said that nothing will come of it, and you may be right, but I have to try. Hoping my local police don't have anything better to do. It's a small town. To finish, I made a point of asking again if he would cut them off or I had to go. He didn't miss a beat and said that they are no longer going to be part of his life, even if I decided to leave. He did ask for one last meeting to say goodbye to her parents and to put a close on that part of his life and to explain to the girls that this is not my fault but his decision after seeing how cruel that they were capable of being. After that, we would block them on everything and move forward. I was completely fine with that. So there we have it. Writing all this out and being able to talk to people about everything has been both helpful and a good distraction from the dumpster fire that has been my life, and everything worked out as well as I could have hoped. We'll see how his meeting goes with them. I'm sure they won't be very happy about it, but that's not my problem. Thank you all, and I'll update after they've met up. Update 2. Hey all. So it seems like I've been naughty because I got temporarily banned on here for 3 days. In the chat, someone was calling me every derogatory and sexist term imaginable, but I was putting time out for defending myself. I appealed, but the appeal took the ban time away anyway. Oh well. Sorry this update is taking so long for reasons stated above. So we drove down to the police station with our block of paperwork and a couple hours talk. They were so sweet about everything. As some of you expected, they did say I should have come earlier, but they didn't really care because it was only a few days. They said that it often takes people about this amount of time to actually file charges if they weren't in immediate threat or danger. So unless someone was about to throw punches. I handed them everything and it looks like I've got plenty of evidence. They'll be contacting my insurance on my behalf to get the ball rolling and so they can come to do a check of my car themselves. And then they can open a claim with me if I want. They're not filing a claim, they're just notifying about the criminal damages. I've filed criminal charges for harassment and vandalism and they'll notify me with more details about a restraining order this week. My fiance told the police that he was planning on meeting with late wife's family and asked if that would contradict my case, and they said no. We're not married at the time of filing, so legally, we're two separate entities in the case, or something. So my car is totaled. My mechanic friend, I'm going to call him Tom because I can't keep saying my mechanic friend. So Tom and his partner at the shop did a full check of my car, and this is the damage they found. Shattered windshield, 4 slashed tires, 2 broken windows, paint, obvious I think, unknown substance in the engine oil, battered bodywork. They said that with this amount of damage, I should just go for a new car, so that's what I'll be doing. If anyone is curious, it was a Volvo. I've always wanted one and managed to buy one new 2 years ago. Either they get me a new car, if they'd be set back about $60,000, either way I'd be all right. The amount classifies the vandalism as a felony, so they could be looking at jail time as well. My fiance met with my family on Saturday, and Tom sat by the window. I currently live in a one-party state, so as long as my fiance consents, the recording can be used in my case. While it may not be as drama-filled as some of you may want, it was still pretty stressful to see. They met at the same cafe that we did before, and Tom sat a few tables away. Fiance arrived after their father and before them, for the best because they managed to have a calm conversation for once. Fiance told him how he was feeling, and father-in-law was very understanding but still trying to minimize. He was saying things like, they miss LW, and they'll come around and just need time to come to terms with you moving on. He kept trying to initiate paying for the damages, but fiance wouldn't talk about it until the sisters arrived. It was like butter wouldn't melt with the 24-year-old, but 19 came in like the Tasmanian devil. My fiance didn't acknowledge anyone until it had all settled down. That's when he said that this would be the last meeting with all of them and they'd be going their separate ways. He turned to the girls and said that he would miss who he thought that they were, but the way that they could treat people horrified him, especially me. He said that this was all him and they needed to accept that I was not to blame. He even said that it was me who offered the apology in exchange for not filing charges. The 19-year-old then interrupted asking what charges and that no one was going to charge them for barely touching a car. She was a deer in the headlights when he asked what they had done to the engine oil, and the two looked at each other. Seems that they didn't expect me to find that out. Cue up the groveling. 24-year-old actually tried to touch his hand and told him he had to stop me pressing charges because this would ruin her and interfere with 19-year-old's college. He said it was too late and the cops should be issuing a warrant soon. It could take a few days. I thought it was an instant thing, but apparently not. This is when their dad got involved again and said for everyone to calm down and fix this like adults. Now he wants his girls to be adults, I see. He asked if fiance would convince me to drop the charges in exchange for that apology, and he'd pay the damages. When my fiance said it was $60,000, the eyes he gave to those women would shave the hair off a cat. The video wasn't the best, but I swear I could see the color drain from their faces. I may sound awful, but I enjoyed it. Call me what you will. They kept going on about apologizing and that they'd pay, but he just said it was too late and he was done. He tried to be civil, but they were the ones who wouldn't let it go. 24-year-old actually asked him to set up a meeting with me so that they could get to know me and put it all behind us. He didn't reply, and after the silence, they piped up again like, so she won't even meet us? So she's behind all this because she doesn't want us around? We'll see about that. Not using exact quotes because I don't know if I'm allowed, so not risking it. Things like that. They went on, and frankly, it was funny and more than hurtful. But they did incriminate themselves more and more for my harassment case, and the nail in the coffin was when the 19-year-old said, if we can do that to a car, imagine what else we could do. That, my friends, is both a confession and a threat of bodily harm. My fiance said one loud stop before wishing father-in-law well and telling the girls to not come near me, and then he got up and left. That's where the recording ends because we wouldn't be able to use anything afterwards anyway. As for moving, we're pretty much all packed up and have a truck coming on Friday. We'll be staying with his parents until we find a place. We're looking at buying this time, but might get an RV in the meantime so we're not all stepping on each other. I doubt his parents would mind at all, but this is the last update for a while, I think. I have a wedding to finish, a venue to change, new invites, etc., and less than 2 months to do it. Send help, but thank you all for being ears and helping me get through this, if only to distract me from ruminating and digging a huge mental hole. Final update. So it's been a while, guys. Calling the past few months a roller coaster wouldn't quite do it justice. A lot has happened, and I hope I don't leave anything out. Here goes. So first off, we moved away. We're only a couple of towns over from my husband's parents, legally, but we kind of just live in their backyard. And my own are in the next state over. Hallelujah. It's been really great living in our new RV, and we've been able to take small trips now and then too, which has been great for a breather. Took a chunk out of our house savings, but we're not too worried about it. Looking for a house has been fun too. I can't speak to what might have happened, but by a stroke of luck, the warrants came through the day before our moving day, and the sisters spent the whole move in police custody. I'm sure it was not as formal as cuffs and interview rooms, but I like to imagine it that way. So we didn't have to deal with any drama that for sure would have happened otherwise. As I said before, we didn't block them because we wanted to keep the line open for more evidence, and boy, was that a good idea. The 19-year-old has only now stopped sending me messages. Started off pleading and hoping for a meetup, then went on to calling me names and such for trying to ruin her life. But the past few weeks have been pure rage, which has been draining if entertaining. She'll say that she'll find me and I'd better watch my back, blah, blah, blah. My printer has been working overtime, as you can imagine, so many receipts to give to my lawyer. 24-year-old is still working on my husband, but it reached a head a few days before the wedding. We should have changed the dates, but it just wasn't feasible. We had family from all over that had taken time off work, and we really wanted everyone there after all that happened. She tried to call my husband over a dozen times and actually left 2 voicemails. She was crying and hyperventilating, saying how she didn't want to lose him. For those of you who said that she still had a thing for him, ding dong. My husband listened to the voicemails with me, and she just rambled. It was actually quite sad. She said that she always thought that they would be together because they'd been through so much together, and it felt right. She blamed him for leading her on and making her fall for him only to choose someone else that he hardly knew. She even said that she felt replaced, which made me uncomfortable. All of this, all the while degrading him for betraying his late wife by moving on at all. I genuinely do not understand her logic. As for my car, we found out what the unknown substance was. It was antifreeze. The entire engine was written off, and with everything else, my insurance launched a case against them for the cost of a new car. I was expecting $60,000 or so, but Tom, my mechanic friend, said to ask for more based on current market value and such. They came back with a new offer of $75,000. It took over a month for the money to hit my account, but I got it. As for the case, I'm no longer going after them for the repayment. My insurance is. So that's one less thing that I have to worry about. As far as I know, their father is paying for their legal fees, but I doubt he'll pay back the insurance company for them. There is still a case against them for harassment and threatening behavior, and I'm suing the money that it took to move away in emotional distress. My lawyer says they'll be liable, and it's looking like they want to settle. I don't feel great about going for emotional distress, but after everything that they've done, it sure was emotionally distressing. The courts are moving very slowly, so I don't have anything new on the criminal case yet, other than that they are going to plead guilty. Shouldn't be long now, and it's looking like they're getting probation and mandatory anger management. Not a stint in jail, but oh well. At least they'll both have a record. My husband was down for a while since we left, but he hasn't wavered in supporting me. He's getting back to his old self now that he's getting back into work here, and he's enjoying being closer to his parents. It's been great for our relationship because we get along so well. As of the 21st, I'm a married woman. It was very hectic and stressful to change basically our entire wedding in 2 months, but we did, and our guests were so understanding. We had to settle for a few things like our cake and catering, but everything else worked out amazingly. Now we couldn't imagine it any other way. It happened as it was supposed to. All in all, things are going well, and thanks everyone who got invested. It's been a long, tough journey. I'm just glad to have them out of my life. That's all for today. If you're enjoying this story, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you.